Hello, and welcome to Stories from India, a podcast where we talk about myths, legends, and folk tales from India. I am your host, Narad Muni, and I'm a mythological character myself. I have the gift of eternal life and knowledge of the past, the present, and the future. By profession, I'm a traveling musician and a storyteller. So, the way I'm doing my job is by podcast. First of all, I wish all of you a very happy new year. I know what you're thinking. Given my knowledge of the future, you might be expecting me to tell you what 2022 has in store. But I'd rather not ruin the element of surprise. And besides, if I mess up the delicate balance of the universe, I might get yelled at by the Holy Trinity. Brahma the creator, who's also my dad, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer. So, anyway, on to the show. In this episode, we are doing a Punjabi folktale again. This one is set in medieval India. It's about a poor woodcutter and how he gets lucky with fruits from his rich neighbor's tree, and how he outwits a bear that tries its paw at trading without being very good at it. The story begins with the woodcutter and his wife living in a tiny hut. In an unexpected twist that cannot be explained by typical urban demographics, the poor couple lived right next door to a rich neighbor. Which goes to show that this can only happen in folk tales. The rich neighbor had some fruit trees, lots of them. One of the branches of one of those trees leaned over into the poor woodcutter's backyard. It was a pear tree. The rich neighbor was generous. He let the woodcutter collect all the pears from the tree that fell on the woodcutter's side of the fence. While the woodcutter interpreted that as a very generous gesture, his neighbor was only doing it because the only part of the tree that extended over the woodcutter's property was one solitary branch. The woodcutter and his wife would get 2 or 3 pears every year, if the squirrels and birds didn't beat them to it first. The thing about being a poor woodcutter is that it limited his future prospects of earning as well. If the woodcutter didn't have the money to invest in a good axe, he could not chop down more wood. And if he didn't have money, he couldn't also invest in a cart to carry his wood in, or even something as basic as safety goggles and gloves. If the woodcutter did not pay his dues to the SAW, or Society of Advanced Woodcutters, he could not receive a monthly magazine and car sticker, depriving him of expert opinions about the best cutting angle and proper cutting posture. I meant expert opinions from the magazine, not from the car sticker. The car sticker was a bonus. Sometimes the society also sent a refrigerator magnet, even though cars and refrigerators did not exist in medieval India. The woodcutter's wife did not really understand the economics of the woodcutting industry or the necessity of seed capital before increasing production volumes. So her way of dealing with their penniless situation was to tell her husband to work harder. Sorry, no, said the husband. I mean, look how it worked out for the horse in George Orwell's book, Animal Farm. He was told to keep working harder by the pigs, and then look at what happened to him. The woodcutter's wife then reminded him that the book had not been written yet. So he explained that the pigs who ran the farm sent the hard-working horse to the butcher in exchange for money. But when he did that, he knew he had made a mistake, because his wife began looking through the yellow pages for butchers who might offer cash in exchange for individuals who couldn't work harder. The woodcutter told his wife she was approaching this all wrong. You're really bad at motivating people. You might be a competent cook, capable of winning the MasterChef competition. More on that later. And you might be a wonderful wife and a hardy homemaker. But you're quite terrible at motivation skills. Now, you should know that if you really want to motivate a man, you have to go through his stomach. His wife was repulsed at the thought of literally going through his stomach, until he clarified that what he meant was for her to cook his favorite dish. The dish that he hadn't eaten since that one day long ago when their rich neighbor had shared some leftovers. He was talking about khichdi. Khichdi, in case you don't know, is a famous dish in India made of rice and lentils, all cooked together. His wife gave in, but she was smart enough to put the wood before the khichdi. She said that he would have to cut twice his usual amount of wood if he wanted khichdi for dinner that night. The woodcutter was certainly more motivated now than he had been when his wife was nagging him. He cut down not his usual, but 3 times his usual amount of wood. It should fetch twice the money, he thought. People were always in the market for wood. They were carving it, their children were playing with it, and they were using it to build furniture. Who knows? Maybe they'd be burning it next. The woodcutter was walking back home, whistling a tune, despite the unusually heavy load he was carrying. His mind was fully on the khichdi. That's when he met a bear going the other way. Now, Indian bears are not as large as other varieties, like grizzlies or polar bears. But they are incredibly powerful, similar to their international cousins. And just like those international cousins, bears from India cannot talk. But this is a folk tale. So the bear that met the woodcutter could absolutely talk. And for similar reasons, the bear also did not attack the man. Instead, he said, "Good afternoon. That's a heavy load of wood you're carrying." "Yes," replied the woodcutter. "That's my job. I'm a woodcutter. It's what I do. As for the load of wood I'm carrying, you're right. It is unusually heavy. But I'm doing it for khichdi." The bear thought for a second and then responded, "I suppose I should feel outraged that you're decreasing my habitat. But I'm not one of those environmental bears. I say, live and let adapt. And talking about adapting, I am keen to learn the ways of humans. So tell me, what is this khichdi that you speak of? I did notice as you said the word that you were drooling." "Oh man, oh bear, you're really missing something," replied the woodcutter. It's this amazing dish that is made of rice and lentils and it has all this butter. He went on, and the bear began salivating as well, with visions of tasty dishes floating in his head.
Say, is it possible for you and your wife to share some of the khichdi with me?
Asked the bear. Maybe, replied the woodcutter. But what can you do for me in return? The woodcutter had an axe to grind here, and I don't mean that literally. But yeah, after the day's hard work, his axe also needed resharpening. So maybe I did mean that literally also. Anyway, what I meant metaphorically was that he had an ulterior motive. If he could get the bear to bring him some wood, it would mean that he could sell it all and reinvest the money into a better axe, which would enable him to cut even more wood and make even more money. So he proposed that idea. The bear reacted well.
Sure, I can get you wood.
Now, would 100 kilos be fair?
You seem to be carrying around 50 kilos, so I can bring twice of that.
No, dear bear, said the woodcutter. I can easily see that you don't know the first thing about woodcutting economics and exchange rates. About a ton should do it. Normally, I'd say 2 tons, but you seem like a nice bear, so I'll offer you a friends and family discount. And you can't compare that to my exchange rate, because I'm married to the khichdi maker. Naturally, I get a substantial discount. The bear thought chopping down and delivering 1 ton of wood was quite the price. But he did not know anyone else who could counteroffer a lower price. So he accepted. And he got to work with just his paws. The woodcutter, meanwhile, hurried home to tell his wife the good news. He had guaranteed themselves a huge profit on the deal. Even if the physical commodities market experienced a very unlikely flash crash. This deal was sure to make his wife happy. If they managed to show up in the market with a whole bunch of extra wood, several rich buyers would be happy to sign lucrative contracts naming the woodcutter their sole supplier. Well, his wife was happy, but only a little bit. Because she spotted the obvious flaw in his deal. He hadn't specified the exact quantity of khichdi the bear would be getting. Bears eat up to 10 kgs of food a day on average. Now, think about a bear who's done enough hard work to chop down a ton of wood.
Oh well, we'll manage somehow, said the woodcutter. But it's an interesting point you bring up. If the bear is going to eat up most of the khichdi, we might not have any left for ourselves.
So let's eat now. That seemed like a great idea. So the two began to eat. The woodcutter's wife was really an excellent cook. The khichdi tasted wonderful. After all his hard work, the woodcutter was hungrier than usual, and he attacked the food so vigorously that, had the bear witnessed it, he would have taken down a lot of pointers for attacking his meals in the future. The wife ate as well, of course. She loved her own cooking as well. They served themselves second, third, and then fourth helpings, muttering after each helping about how they must leave some for the bear. But finally, when the woodcutter tried to grab a fifth helping, he was dismayed to realize that the pot was completely empty. Husband and wife looked at each other in alarm. What were they going to do when the bear arrived, expecting his share of the khichdi?
You'll just have to make more khichdi then,
Suggested the woodcutter. With what? Asked his wife. You seem to be forgetting we are basically living from one meal to the next. We can't break into our retirement funds for this, since they don't even exist. But then their alarm turned to panic as they heard the bear whistling a tune. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, he's here, exclaimed the woodcutter. His wife was a little more practical. Leave the pot on the stove and let's hide in the pantry. The bear will think we have gone out and left the khichdi for him. But before that, he'll smell the khichdi and know that it's there, so he'll have dropped all the wood that he's carrying. He will get angry when he sees the empty pot, but he won't bother up picking up all the heavy load again. The woodcutter would have remarked that this was very clever, but there was no time to be lost. The bear was ringing the doorbell now. The couple quickly dashed for the pantry and closed the door from the inside. As they were rather poor, the pantry was completely empty, which made it very suitable as a hideout. The bear got impatient and pushed hard on the door and realized that it was unlocked. He followed his nose and went straight to the pot on the stove. This smell was amazing. He was sure that he had never smelled anything so delicious. He was howling in excitement. But that soon turned into howls of rage as he saw the empty pot. There was nothing in it, not even a single grain of rice. But there wasn't much that he could do. The best he could do was to complain to the Consumer Protection Bureau or the Better Business Bureau. For now, the bear decided that he would take the smell with him. He had seen a pear tree outside. He would collect all the ripe pears in the pot and take them home with him to his bear friends for a price. Yes, he had learned a very valuable lesson from his encounter with the woodcutter. He was going to charge ridiculously high rates for the pears, and with that, he would buy himself a lot of khichdi from the best khichdi retailers in the country. Yeah, he had really gotten the hang of this whole economics thing. He stepped out with the khichdi pot. Being a bear, he did not respect human fence boundaries. He climbed the pear tree on the rich neighbor's side and began collecting all the pears that he could. He also decided to do a bit of quality control. He tasted a little bit from each pear. He kept the best pears in the pot to maximize his profits. The ones that did not taste very good, he decided to eat because he did not want them to go to waste. Just when he had stuffed the pot full of the best pears, something happened. The woodcutter's wife, who had been in the pantry too long, sneezed. She could not hold it any more. Her sneeze was loud, very loud. To the bear, the sound of the sneeze sounded like hunters. It scared him. It scared him so much that he fell out of the tree. He dropped the pot and scrambled for dear life. He did not dare turn back until he was back home. With no pears, of course. All he had was a stomachache the next day from having eaten too many unripe pears. The woodcutter and his wife lucked out though. They got to keep all the wood and they got to keep all the pears. The bear realized that when word got around of his misadventures, the performance of the financial markets for Khichdi was going to be, well, bearish. That's where we'll end it this week. A couple of notes on the show. Some pictures of Khichdi are linked on the site sfipodcast.com. Check them out. At one point, there were claims in the media that Khichdi was going to be designated the national food of India. Not true, of course. We have, by the way, encountered Khichdi before in episode 22, Slow Cooker, with Akbar and Birbal. Also check the links in the show notes for other Punjabi folktales that we have covered before. In the next episode, we'll do a story about a special kind of fire that can destroy the universe. There is a tie-in with episode 86 and Parshuram's story. And the story will also feature my mom, Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. If you have comments or suggestions, or if there are particular stories that you would like to hear, please do let me know by leaving a comment or a review on the site sfipodcast.com or tweet at sfipodcast. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get notified automatically of new episodes. A big thank you to each and every one of you for your continued support and your feedback. The music is from purpleplanet.com. That's purple-planet.com. I'll see you next time.